Move more together for you, your team, and a good cause. Join the Movivo Move Days, the ultimate health challenge during Lent, and win exclusive prizes. Collect points for 45 days in the Movivo app, together with your colleagues or in your own personal way. Whether it's through your favorite sports, breathing exercises, giving up sugar, or ice bathing, every point counts. Are you ready?
A very warm welcome to the Wunderbeil movement, the podcast designed for all those who wish to take their health into their own hands. Today we are embarking on a special series. We are already right in the middle of the Move Days, which is a health challenge for companies and a good cause. They run for 45 days throughout the entire Lenten season, where it's about developing new healthy habits, getting active, taking care of your mental well-being, or perhaps making some dietary changes. Right at the very heart of the Move Days is the crucial topic of forming habits, developing new ones, and then also successfully maintaining them. And that's often the most challenging part, just getting started with something. That's already a good initial step, but then the real challenge is to stick with it when things get difficult, or after a week or even 2 weeks when everyday life might perhaps catch up with you again. That is indeed the most challenging step, and for this very reason I have invited a truly special guest today. Jürgen Domenig is here with me. He is an expert in mindfulness and also an expert on the subject of habit formation. Dear Jürgen, it's truly wonderful to have you with us today and to hear you explain at the start of the Move Days how we can finally manage to overcome that inner couch potato, to get started and then consistently stick with it.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for allowing me to be here.
Jürgen, how did your journey unfold? You were also in business, holding leadership roles, and then you started to delve deeply into the subject of mindfulness. How did this path come about, and where has it led you so far?
Yes, as you can hear, I'm from Carinthia. I grew up in a hotel, always dealing with people, with guests, with staff. Then I studied and worked for a long time in business with a lot of responsibility, also in leadership. And for me, the topic that always interested me was how does a human being work? That always truly fascinated me. Yeah, how does he work? What personality types are there, and so on. And that was always my motivation. It always simply interested me personally because I thought this also helps me professionally. Yes, simply to understand others. Then I was working in marketing and had to create an advertising campaign for Austria, and I really messed up. So it wasn't completely wrong, but not quite right either. And the materials were printed incorrectly. Yes. Well, it just didn't quite fit. And I remember I woke up at 3 a.m. at home, completely drenched in sweat. I thought the universe was collapsing. It's truly as if my very life were at stake. And then I realized, it's not about the folders at all. What good is it to me if I understand everyone else, but wake up drenched in sweat at night, And that was my trigger when I said, I'm actually looking in the wrong direction, And that's when I opened myself up to mindfulness. So I then also came to the teaching of mindfulness and, of course, to introspection. And that's something that stays with me. And the interesting part is when you understand that, you automatically begin to understand that again. So it's all two in one.
So mindfulness is a concept that has certainly become very popular in recent years and is used in many different contexts. What does mindfulness mean for you personally? How do you personally interpret it?
Yes, the term mindfulness is very hard to define. Yes, I remember I even did a master's degree in mindfulness, and I had a study by Van Damme from 2017 where they said scientists don't even understand what the word means. That's why it's so difficult to measure. Yes. For me, my personal interpretation is that your entire body, your entire mind, your brain, it's actually a supercomputer, and what it's capable of, that's so much more than something like a ChatGPT or whatever else they're called, right? But do you actually know how to operate it, how to use it? Have you read the instruction manual for it? And that is what mindfulness is, consciously directing your attention onto yourself and beginning to understand how I truly function. So it's not about trying to understand other people, but truly experiencing and understanding that within yourself. I mean, the human being is a supercomputer, right? So just everyday things like when I eat something and then digest it, no one understands today how all of this actually works. Yes, how does the body know what it needs to do? How are thoughts formed or even habits? that then became my topic as well, because I saw that it's a good topic to link together, yes.
There were already so many truly fascinating topics and a great many follow-up questions that naturally arose from them. We'll first make the connection to the subject of habits. How do you then move from mindfulness, from the actual practice of mindfulness to forming new habits, and why is that so important to you?
Look, everything that we do here is scientifically proven, you know. That means I understand it, but that only means if I understand something, it doesn't mean I can actually put it into practice. I might be able to do it, as we mentioned before, for a few days. I'm feeling euphoric, hooray, I'm doing this. But then my old habits just come right back, you see. And that's why this subject has simply grown to be very significant for me. So my personal journey isn't what I describe as the, in quotation marks, classic mindfulness path, where I spend a certain amount of time in a specific place, working with my eyes closed for an extended period. But my main focus has always been, how can I bring this directly into the middle of everyday life, you know? That was even the subject of my master's thesis at that time. I did that for a friend of mine. He has an office with 6 employees, and I asked Wook, what can I really concretely implement there if 6 employees are sitting out at the thing? And I'll put it provocatively, 45 minutes of closing your eyes just wasn't possible. So what could I actually do? And then I realized that these informal, small exercises, if you repeat them often enough and integrate them into your daily routine, work just as effectively. And the point is, it has to become a habit, and that's the big core of it, yes.
Now, of course, the topic of mindfulness is also often placed somewhere in the esoteric corner. One might imagine that, as you describe, you sit somewhere for hours, close your eyes, and are supposed to be with yourself. So that also deters many people, as on the one hand, to engage so intensely with oneself, but also naturally, because then thoughts begin to race, and that's a big hurdle. Then you say it also works with small things. Let's really try to pin this down with a concrete example. What does that look like in your daily routine? What do you do, for example, to navigate your everyday life mindfully?
So in essence, anything can become mindfulness if you truly understand it. It's about a conscious focusing of your attention. That means I can get up in the morning and, for example, mindfully make myself a coffee. I can also say that I can dedicate my attention to my child and do that very consciously and specifically. I can sit on the subway and there I can, with my eyes open or closed, and follow my breath. At work, for example, we used to, when we went on break, wash our feet, little things like that. And I did that with my colleagues back then. And for some of them, it was quite a new experience, because I'm so often on autopilot where I'm working. Then I go to the restroom and my thoughts are still stuck on work. And yes, there's that famous story you'll hear during the move days, over 30 days. Yeah, a modern version where I say I'm sitting at the office, still thinking of home, and I'm at home thinking, tomorrow I'm back at the office. But I can learn to be truly here consciously. And that's where mindfulness is aimed. And then I'm mindful everywhere, because my path, my aspiration is that I say, it's not like I do a 30-minute exercise in the morning and then rush through the whole day. If I have understood the basic principles, then I can incorporate them into my entire day, and your brain will help you, because your brain is a supercomputer. If you truly desire something from your heart, then your brain will also assist you in making it happen. And then a meeting, or I meet a colleague, perhaps even a difficult conversation you're having, that you can, so to speak, do your 2001 exercises for it beforehand. So that's my goal, and that's the path we are taking. Being present in the moment, that's something that has really stuck with me very strongly, and to direct one's full attention. Now, of course, we live in a world that is becoming increasingly fast-paced. We also know we're often out in schools with movable for kids. Teachers report to us that children's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, especially the veteran teachers, those with 20, 30 or 40 years of experience, observe a significant decline in attention span. And you even catch yourself easily getting distracted. I personally noticed this too. How does one then manage to truly become aware that this also affects oneself personally? Well, We need to understand the reason for these devices, or if someone were to, naturally, specifically regarding smartphone devices as well. So image and sound is something that always draws your attention somewhere, and then there's the reward system. And that in a way makes it rewarding for you, that I just go and quickly watch a video. If I were to say I'd do sports instead, that's a longer path. A 20-second TikTok video gives me instant gratification. I've got it. But if I say I'll put on my shoes now and need to run for 10 minutes until I get into a certain mode, then it's more appealing for the brain, so to speak, to simply choose the easier way. But if I understand it, I can also apply it. For example, I've established my running routine, even though I'm not a big runner. I have adapted my running routines to suit my back and my head.
You must explain it.
It's quite simple. So if you increase this body awareness, and that is what you do with mindfulness, that you feel much more within yourself. I go for a run when I feel it in my back, or when I notice my head is full. And then I tell myself, I'll go for a run, just 5 minutes. That's my usual loop. I don't do more. And it's like this, I know from the reward, because I can also feel it deep inside me when my back starts to ache or my head is full. And then I go for a run. I know, and I've learned this already, that it does me good. And that I don't go and say, my objections would come up and say, that's not possible. And I don't keep time. I say 5 minutes. It's never 5 minutes. I always run longer. It's always 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
At 30 minutes, I'm already done.
But given how you are, do you just head out for a run the moment you think, okay, my back's acting up, even if you're deep into some task, perhaps even at the office? Or do you first have to go somewhere specific? And is it then difficult for you to get started at all? Or have you somehow made it that easy for yourself?
Well, that kind of running, I mean, really fast running, actual sprinting, that's something I can only do at home. That's just not possible when I'm at the office. But for instance, the warning signs, the triggers, they're not always the same. So then, for example, I might get off the subway one stop earlier and simply walk the rest of the way. And I know that always does me good.
You've already internalized this concept so thoroughly, the instant your back really starts to bother you, that your back is trying to tell you something.
And that's the thing. If you learn how to operate this computer, you'll be able to create these kinds of triggers. For example, this summer I had some fun, and I linked a small mindfulness exercise where I focus on being present and having heightened body awareness to blue items of clothing. It's very simple. If I see someone on the street wearing something light blue, it reminds me to do that exercise.
So both of them are possible.
We also, and I also discussed this bestseller in our preliminary conversations. James Clear's Atomic Habits was for years one of the top sellers in the field of habit formation. And he also writes that habits should be simple and should be linked to existing activities. Your description strongly reminded me of that.
And if you want to learn something new, it's crucial that you always need your full attention at the beginning. And that's precisely where mindfulness comes into play. Yes, because through mindfulness exercises, you activate exactly this part and simply learn to utilize it more effectively.
And that will help you then. So it gets to the point where you say, please remind me tomorrow afternoon when I leave at 3 to take the key. And that will pop up for you if you really do it consciously.
How long does it take?
It's a lifelong practice. It's like with instruments, yeah. When are you ever finished? So I learned piano for a year and a half, then came back to drums. It was a bit too strict for me. And she told you she's been performing for 10 years, and she said, you'll never be finished. And that's it, yeah. So we mustn't forget.
You're learning it slowly, but that's also the beauty of it. Yes, it's a path for you. Yes. What's important isn't just achieving the goal, but who you want to become. Yes. So don't just say, I want this goal now. I want to become the mindfulness guru, and that's it. If you do, you'll struggle, you won't have success, and you'll find it very hard to implement it simply because the results aren't there. But if I say my aspiration is to become more mindful because I notice it benefits me. I've done a few exercises. No, that works. That would interest me. I want to become that. That's the path where I say, okay, that could already mean that instead of taking the elevator, I'll use the stairs. No one else has done that. I know that.
I've made it a personal habit. Yes, absolutely. If there's a staircase anywhere nearby, I always make sure to use it. That's precisely what stairs are there for. And as a human being, I am naturally designed to move myself, not to simply let myself be carried up by an escalator. You've brought up a point that we've actually touched upon repeatedly, time and again, in several of our podcast episodes. This topic of goal achievement and the concept of a static versus a dynamic mindset, where someone might say, okay, I want to reach 80 kilos now. That's all well and good, but life, of course, continues. What happens after that, right?
And you've described it so perfectly. I'd like to become someone who will then probably just live a healthy life.
Perhaps the better goal is not to tell yourself, okay, I want to reach 80 kilograms, but rather to be someone who simply lives a healthy life and for whom it's completely natural to find themselves at 80 kilograms. Yes, I mean, our brain functions exactly that way, you know. Whatever you truly desire from the bottom of your heart, that will eventually come to pass. Yes.
And if, for example, you tell yourself, yes, I can only get there through training, only through hardship, only if I persevere, I have to stick with it, and you have to be tough as nails. Then the brain says, okay, what did the boss say? It has to be hard. I have to stick with it. I have to do this thing. Okay, if he wants it that way, then we'll do it that way. Question, can it be easy? Is change allowed to be easy? That's not always easy to answer, no. Because if we've learned that from childhood, for example, in our work life, that it has to be hard and you have to, then your brain will say, okay, if that's my attitude, then boss, I'll do it for you like that. Yes. The question is, can it also be easy?
I mean, discipline isn't necessarily the key, because you often hear people say, "No, you must be persistent, you must stay with it, be disciplined." That's certainly important, but maybe not the only path, right?
Yes. If you believe that, then it will be so for you. Yes. I say, can it be easy too? Yes. Can it be playful? Can I, with a wink, try to change something? Yes. New routines. Do I allow myself that? Yes. Yeah, or...
Let's take a concrete example to make it more tangible for our listeners. Who now, during the move days, especially today, this first Thursday, might be starting their healthy routine. For some, it might be that they want to give up sugar, a sugar fast.
Others join you with you and Matthew on the journey to build new habits and to find their focus. Others want to take care of their back health. The move days are indeed very diverse.
But let's take an example, a specific one let's take sugar fasting, for instance. Nutrition is a very emotional topic, you know. We've already had quite a few points on that were mentioned. There are also these small dopamine kicks from a piece of chocolate, perhaps yes, or from a snack in between. How do I manage it if I, let's say, want to fast from sugar for these 45 move days? How do I manage to stick with it? How do I get started? What framework should I set for myself? Guide us through such a process.
Yes, it's a difficult topic. We shouldn't forget it makes sense to have routines that we follow, right? So depending on the research, between 50 and 90% of our day, we're on autopilot. That means we are simply following routines. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Easier? Absolutely, 100%. The only question is, are these routines correct though, or should we do things differently?
Sugar detox is, of course, a short-term intervention for this time.
Let's take this, because I actually have a personal example from my own home. You see, in the evening, feeling tired, I reach for chocolate. Yes, a sweet treat, a classic scenario. Now, what exactly was the real trigger for that chocolate? Was it the chocolate itself that I craved, or was it perhaps a lack of energy that made me say, now I'll grab some chocolate? Yes. So a lack of energy. All right. Then I'll take a look, okay, in the evening if I have a lack of energy. And it's also important to understand that where our habits are stored in our body, in our mind, that is in the limbic system, the neighboring area, so to speak, and it's always closely connected with emotions. This means habits are always connected to emotions, and you also need to speak their language to truly change them. So it's not enough for me to simply say, yes, I know from 5 studies that sugar isn't good. Yes, I know that, but in the evening when I'm tired and, for example, experiencing this heavy emotion, I'll still reach for sugar again. One method, what I've personally done at home recently is this. I've slowly swapped things out. I removed all those chocolates, but I made sure to choose something that's still sweet, yet a much healthier kind of sweetness, for example, dried mangoes. And I really placed those right within my easy reach, exactly where I am now in the kitchen, where I usually wouldn't grab anything, and I locked the chocolate away. That means If I really wanted to get chocolate now, I'd first have to get the key, which is somewhere else. I'd have to go over there first, unlock the cabinet and fetch it. And the interesting thing is, it's 1 o'clock, but as I said, it's a conscious decision. I told myself, I'm doing this consciously now. Is after that first lunch, I never reached for chocolate again. Then I took that instead, and then because it was easy, it was there, and the other is difficult. Exactly, that's one of the possibilities, for example. The next thing is I can look at it and say, can I slowly change that into other things? For example, nuts. Nuts, yeah, we have nuts at home, for example. Now,
Still pull it.
and when I know over time, okay, how this all works, and I've also learned that change works for me, then I can ask myself, okay, I'm experiencing a lack of energy. Can I compensate for that in a different way? And then, for example, we can go for a walk. I'll just go out into the fresh air.
It's very important to stimulate your blood circulation. I can tell you, okay, that's the biggest energy supplier there is.
And things I tell myself here are, okay, listen, I'll buy a, is it about sugar again? I'll buy myself a dark chocolate now because I know it's much healthier with that 80 something, but I'll go for a walk first. If I walk for 20 minutes, then I'll take it if I still need it.
If I still need it, then it's probably useless anyway.
Exactly so.
You just mentioned that this was a really great example. Another aspect, and this is actually your core subject, is how you truly bring mindfulness into our everyday lives. We just talked about how we might be in a meeting easily distracted. Who doesn't know that feeling? You're holding a meeting, perhaps with 5 people present. One person is looking at their phone, another's thoughts are completely elsewhere, and someone else might even be answering an email. And that's not only incredibly inefficient, but it also, well, it doesn't do us any good. Personally, I find such meetings quite bothersome. How can we manage to achieve this, to be truly mindful, perhaps even during this meeting, and to then show our partner the essential respect they deserve, to listen attentively and bring that same mindfulness into all those regular, everyday activities that we constantly engage in?
It's certainly a journey. So if I've gotten used to it now, and it's deeply ingrained within me, to bring in new routines, that's quite a process. That's why with the 30-day challenge, we start completely neutral. We say we're not doing something where you're already extremely on autopilot, but rather we're adopting new habits that are a little outside your comfort zone, to start like getting used to a small focus exercise. And the important thing about this focus exercise, which we always reflect on, is does it truly benefit you? And usually people have always said, it does me good when I do it. I just need to do it more often. And then the question arises, how can I connect these things? But I always say it's just like with the fire department. If I want to become a firefighter, I don't simply get the uniform and then wait for a fire to break out. Instead, I begin with some dry training exercises. How exactly does the whole process work? Then my colleagues help me, and eventually you take an exam, and then you're gradually led to the fire. And that's how it is with mindfulness. Now, if before the autopilot and if my emotional center is currently in turmoil, or my reptilian brain, which deals with fear and flight, then I tell myself, yes, you need to take another deep breath. This is indeed difficult, but this is a path you must take.
These recommendations you get from colleagues or friends, just take a breath.
This all works. It's 100% scientifically proven, and it will. That's a sigh for letting go. All of it works, but it needs to become a habit for you, and you must understand it yourself. So I'm all about understanding. I always approach things scientifically. How does it work? What does it do? And we've also included that. So we'll see exactly which brain waves, what things it does. But what's important is the experience. You have to learn for yourself that it actually works. And through learning, your brain will then say, hey, this is rewarding that I'm actually doing this.
A little teaser to start with. We'll be diving into the topic of finding focus next Tuesday. Mathieu will guide us through an exercise and then hopefully also lead us into the routine that you've designed together in the Moevo app. But is there an exercise that you yourself also do during the day, which you could perhaps briefly guide our listeners through right now?
So we can do the exercise that we'll do over 30 days. That's one exercise, and I can quickly show you a second if you'd like. Yes, I'd love to. That was my starting exercise, so to speak, into mindfulness.
We'd be happy to.
we're really looking forward to it.
Yes, so short or long, how much time do you think we'll need for the short version? It's entirely up to you. Discuss. If you say 30 seconds is quite enough, then it will be 30 seconds. If you say half an hour, we can certainly do half an hour.
Half an hour right now would definitely exceed our current scope. 1 or 2 minutes, we can certainly manage. We can do a quick exercise. Absolutely.
Do you want to do this incognito, or would you rather do it in a way that everyone can see that you are performing the exercise? That's also an option.
Yes, I'm not the only one doing this. Hopefully all of our listeners, both male and female, are participating too.
Let's not do the incognito exercise, so to speak, because this exercise that I'm demonstrating now, this is the exercise we'll be doing over the 30 days. And you can do it briefly, you can do it at length, you can do it incognito. That means doing it incognito in the middle of a meeting is absolutely no problem at all. We'll do a medium one now, not incognito, so that it's visible. Just sit up straight, don't lean back. So you have a bit of body tension. And the exercise is quite simple. We'll do it now with closed eyes. You can also do it with open eyes. So you just close your eyes. Now, if it's not possible for you right now because you are currently in your car or perhaps in the middle of a meeting, then you can do this exercise afterwards. Then you breathe in.
Then you smile a little bit to yourself.
Exhale now.
And then simply feel deep inside yourself.
How does it feel to you when you breathe in this very moment?
You can actually feel the breath right on your nose. You can feel your breath within your chest, how it gently rises and then slowly falls.
Or maybe in the stomach.
How your belly moves with your breath, and you simply keep your focus on your breath. How does it feel? How does it feel right now in this very moment as you breathe? And make sure you smile to yourself while you're doing it. I mean, really, in a way that everyone can clearly see it. You don't have to do a single thing. Nothing at all is expected from you. Just simply feel within yourself how it truly feels to be sitting here in this very moment, breathing. And whenever thoughts begin to surface, you can gently offer them a kind smile and then simply guide your attention back to your breathing.
And smile while doing it.
Just feel into yourself how it feels right now in this very moment. To simply sit here, to breathe deeply and to be truly kind to yourself. You don't need to do anything with your breathing just yet. You don't have to breathe any deeper or make any kind of change. Your breath is flowing completely on its own, quite naturally, throughout the entire day. All you need to do is simply observe it. Then you consciously breathe in and out 1 or 2 more times. And then you can open your eyes again and complete the exercise. Michael, how are you feeling at the moment? What are you sensing?
Yes, I was definitely able to really get myself into it quite well. I became significantly calmer. However, as the exercise continued and progressed, quite a lot of different thoughts started to emerge. It was a little bit noisy outside just then. It briefly pulled me out of it a little. Not restless, but I simply perceived that something was going on out there. But I did get a little nervous for a moment there because we actually forgot to mention during an exercise like this, okay, if you're in the car, you should probably keep your eyes open because many people do this. I myself listen to many podcasts in the car while driving. Then I thought to myself, okay, we've completely forgotten about that now. So I truly hope that everyone who was in the car kept their eyes wide open, right? But I genuinely noticed how I found my peace there. And somehow, yes, this smile, it really had a very good positive impact. Yes, how it smiles at me.
So with this small exercise, of course, it needs repetition, repetition, repetition. You have to make it a habit. You can also do it with open eyes. So I can take one breath and your brain will know it then, right? With continued practice, just one breath now, and then will be enough, right? That, and you activate all 3 brain areas. So we're talking about the 3 brain regions from an evolutionary style. So you can always view that differently, you know, right, left, and so on, and you activate all 3 parts with this. It's such a simple exercise.
It's really quite simple, you know. Many things that we actually know are very simple, but for me, they're still not quite tangible. And that's also my whole point, you know. I get people to be more active and integrate movement into their daily lives. To also notice such things that there are stairs and that you don't always have to take the elevator, or that you can briefly balance on the curb to train your sense of balance. All these small things, you really have to learn to see them again. And Marcel Ederer, people are often so caught up in their own daily grind, so trapped in their everyday lives.
It is career, it is family.
How do you set, set a timer for yourself when you don't yet have that inner feeling, I must now, or rather, I should say, should isn't the right word, but it would actually do me good to do an exercise like that right now. But in that moment, it doesn't even cross my mind because it's not a habit yet. How do you get someone to that point? What kind of tools or preparation can you give them so that it eventually becomes second nature, just like it is for you when your back starts to ache and you simply begin to run? Give us a small checklist, a little roadmap on how one can start on that journey.
That would, of course, derail the podcast again. As I said, 80 to 90% of the day is routine, and I want to build a new routine now. Our approaches will make it very playful in the first few days. You have to remember, if you really want this to become a habit, you'll need at least 21 days, maybe even more, and consistently. And importantly, you learn routine through repetition, repetition, repetition. If I've done this exercise once and say, I want to do this from now on, then I'll naturally very soon be back in old habits, let's say, or in old routines, and then I'll have forgotten it.
I've completely forgotten it. Yes, how can I possibly make sure that I don't forget it?
It's very simple. As what we're doing first is a neutral situation, and you can just let yourselves be surprised. It's actually going to be a pretty funny situation from your daily life, something you always do, but I won't tell you what.
Don't give away too many details. Don't spoil anything.
But you really have to give a little something. We need a little bit of meat. The people, the ones who...
I actually find myself smiling at this story, and then I connect it to my daily life. And what I do is, your brain does everything that it perceives as rewarding. We will work with rewards, and you will then choose a big reward for yourself just for doing it. And you'll remember it daily because you'll link it to your existing habit. So that's the way, that's the starting point. What we do later, what you brought up, that's in the second phase, and it's also much about reflection. What throws me off balance? No, I also need to understand why I get off balance and what it is. And once I've understood that, I can integrate this exercise there, and then it will work. So you'll get instructions from us on exactly how that works. So if I now, whenever I, for example, a common scenario we've often heard is, I open my calendar and immediately feel stressed because it's completely full. Then I can connect that with it and say, okay, then I managed to breathe through it. But I have to consciously learn that. But to learn it consciously, I need to know that the exercise works. And that's why I simply need this long build-up where I say, I'll do it as dry training first and then move on. And once I've learned that, I can start connecting it with everything, and that will then become, so to speak, my new identity.
The point is to form a pattern that you can then apply to other areas of life, to other domains. Does it matter then if it's a mindfulness exercise, a movement exercise, or a nutrition routine?
And the starting point, of course, is to work with the reward system, because I believe in this context, it does what rewards itself. I mean, we've often received a bit of pushback on that. Yes, working with a reward system, is that really such a thing? One thing you must not forget. It could also be a habit. The things that I tell myself, that doesn't work, that's not going to happen, that's just not for me. It could also be a habit where someone says, my system, okay, we're not doing that. You know,
I encounter this quite frequently, especially within the context of physical movement. I'm a big fan of those coordination exercises that stimulate brain activity and create new synaptic connections. And then I very often hear the immediate response saying, no, I can't do that. That's just not for me.
It could very well be a habit. Perhaps it's a habit that prevents me from becoming more athletic, that I always tell myself, no, this won't work. It just won't happen for me. And that too is a habit. So habits are not just the things that we do, but also the words that we constantly tell ourselves. That's why I asked at the very beginning, can it be easy? With my analysis, can we make it playful? If I were to ask you, what is your biggest wish? Where would you like to go on vacation?
What if I were to ask you now, where would you really like to go on vacation?
I was just on a vacation, actually.
Maldives, I don't know.
What is your goal? I've always associated holidays with being active. I would really love to be out and about in Nepal, in the Himalayas.
Michael, if I were to tell you right now, I'll pay you for 3 weeks and I'll take over Movable during that time. I'll pay for 3 weeks of vacation in Nepal. You can go whenever you want. If you can manage for the next 3 weeks to incorporate this exercise I showed you 3 times a day, every single day, then I will pay for this vacation for you.
Believe me, what's up there will never, ever forget this. You'll do anything, you'll run, and that's it. We take advantage of that. But that's just how we operate.
All habits, even the negative ones we've picked up, like reaching for chocolate or finding myself doing other things during meetings, somehow triggered a sense of reward within me. So we do it that way and we exploit that system, saying, well, if it works like that, then I'll slowly steer it in a different direction. I just need to learn to do it consciously. And becoming consciously aware of that is also what mindfulness means to me.
Those are some pretty good concluding remarks, I'd say. To summarize once more, I'm taking away from myself and hopefully for all of you in front of your screens and in your headphones, if you're only listening to the audio, the Sifidi Karine, that being in the moment is a skill that we unite.
Yes, certainly also on learning, where we are naturally led to unlearn by the very world we have created for ourselves, from which we simply cannot escape. So this act of being in the present moment, of becoming truly aware, of consciously directing one's attention, and also in a conversation, being fully present with your conversation partner. And that, of course, just like with many things in life, it requires many, many repetitions if you want to start something new. You gave a great example, like learning an instrument or the story with the firefighter. You simply always have to repeat. From sports to many, many thousands of repetitions are necessary to achieve top-tier performance, and even more than that, to truly become world-class. When you mention that, it's quite an interesting point, especially when we consider the topic of habits. Yes, I once learned through research it generally takes around 50 hours as a rough estimate before you truly learn something new.
Yes, for example, if you say you want to learn how to ski and you put in 50 hours, then it essentially sinks deep into your system and it becomes an automatic response, right? What the top athlete, what the real difference is, they ski down the strife, so the professional racer wins, and then you listen to what they say in the interview. He says, yeah, that wasn't an optimal run. In that one curve, I had a bit of a slip and I didn't hit the gate. This means he's trained for tens of thousands of hours, yet his focus is still completely there. That's the difference between where you might end up and what top athletes do. And they can actually do that, yeah. And that requires a lot of mental training, yeah. Unlike them, yeah.
So constantly striving for improvement, not talking yourself down, thinking you've made a mistake, but rather seeing the potential, realizing there's still more to achieve. And you are, yes, it's routine, the skiing, but I'm still fully aware of it. Even if I'm doing my 10,000th run, I'm still completely conscious and fully perceive everything within my body. And that essentially is mindfulness, yes. We're coming to an end, Jürgen. If you could put a sentence up. We're here in Vienna today, yes, in our mobile podcast studio. If you could attach a sentence to St. Stephen's Cathedral that everyone could read, what would that sentence be?
A big question, yes, for a large audience. Yes, my favorite phrase is, may it be easy. May it be easy, yes, with ease, with a wink and with ease. Yes, that's how the move days should be. The move days should bring joy. The move days should, yes, create curiosity also for new healthy habits and also for new routines.
And yes, I wish you all a great start to the move days. I hope you reach your goals. It can be easy, as Jürgen said, and I sincerely thank you for joining us today for the start of the move days in this special episode. You can find more from you in the Moveo app, in the collaborative routine on finding focus and building habits with Mathieu. So feel free to check it out and then perhaps adapt this routine for other areas as well. And yes, achieve your own goals. It was nice having you here.
Wishing you all the very best. Use it or lose it. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you, Michael, for letting me wrap things up. It's been my absolute pleasure.
More together for you, your team, and a good cause. Join the Movivo Move Days, the ultimate health challenge during Lent, and win exclusive prizes. Collect points for 45 days in the Movivo app. Together with your colleagues or in your own personal way. Whether it's through your favorite sports, breathing exercises, giving up sugar, or ice bathing, every point counts. Are you ready?